Shalom Aleichem everyone, it's Parshas Seitzei, and I wanted to share with you a number of insights that flow out of the halacha that we open up the parsha with, the din of the Eishes Yifas Torah. Torah tells us that when you go out to warfare, so you might find yourself attracted to a captive woman. An Eishes Yifas Torah v'chashakta ba, you'll have a desire for her, and you'll want to go ahead and marry her. So the Torah tells us, not so fast, rather, bring her to your house. V'gilcha es rosha, shave her hair. V'asesas tiparneha, Rashi says, allow her fingernails to grow out in order that she become disgusting, minuveles. Leave her in not nice, put her in not nice clothing. She'll cry for her father's home, her mother's home for a month of time, and if you still at that point want to marry her, then and only then, v'haisa lecha leisha. Rashi points out, very striking Rashi, it's the Gemara Masechus Kiddushin Daf Chaf Aleph, tells us that Dvar Torah keneged Yetzer Hara. This is not a marriage that really the Torah is very, very excited about, but we recognize that there's a Yetzer Hara. And in fact, the Yetzer Hara in the context of warfare perhaps is much more profound, as we'll describe in a moment. And because Dvar Torah keneged Yetzer Hara, Hashem realizes that if we go ahead and do not sanction this marriage, in Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu Matira, if we don't allow it, Yisa'ena be'isser, then he's going to take her anyway, and he's going to take her be'isser, and therefore rather he takes her be'heter than he takes her be'isser. However, it says Rashi, there is a smichus ha-parshas over here. You connect the dots, and if this parsha Yishpas Torah leads into the next parsha, the story of a wife who is an Isha Snua, a hated wife, a despised wife, which in turn leads to the next parsha, that of the Ben Sorer Umore, the son, who is the wayward son who we're not going to have any nachas from, who goes off the derech in ways of theft and the like, and there's a progression here. Eishes Yifas Torah, though she's married, she becomes an Isha Snua, and that produces the Ben Sorer Umore. What exactly the messages that are told to us in this very striking parasha, Dvar Torah keneged Yetzer Hara? So 3 ideas I want to share with you. First, the Gemara Masechus Sotah Daf Mem Daled tells us, Rav Yossi Haglili says, based on last week's parasha, certain people don't go to war. One of the persons that doesn't go to war is the person who's rach levav, who has a weak constitution. He's very nervous about warfare. What's he nervous about? Rabbi Akiva there says he's not a gibor, he's not so strong. Rav Yosef really says, you know why he's nervous? He might be a gibor, but he's nervous because of his averos. His averos might go ahead and prevent him from seeking his goals. He might die in warfare. His averos is what's going to go ahead and cause his downfall. That's what he's nervous about. In other words, according to Rav Yosef Haglili, the average Jewish warrior, as we know, the Baal HaTurim alludes to this as well, is an Adam Shalem, is a tzaddik, is a person who is not rach levav because of his averos. Yet, look what can happen. Even to the tzaddik, in the context of warfare is very, very, there's a lot of violence, of course. It's passionate, it's emotional. A person operates based on instinct, and not necessarily with his intellect in the same way. There's a lot of blood and so forth, and therefore passions and emotions become very, very pervasive. Even the tzaddik is subject to the Eishes Yifas Torah. When things get stressful, there's anxiety, there's violence, there's passion. So even the tzaddik could succumb to something that looks to be a very, 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 very harsh and serious Yetzer Hara. That's idea number 1. Idea number 2 is what happens. This all happens to all of us. We're in the throes of a potential Avera, a potential Yetzer Hara moment, and the Torah says something very striking. It tells us that when we're about to act, we're not using our seichel, we're using our emotions. And sometimes our emotional responses, our passions demand of us or push us, our heart pushes us, act, do, take. And the Torah says, slow down. We have to go ahead and somewhat neutralize those emotions. We have to take a step back. Don't immediately act. Rather, take a step back. Here's the Torah's telling you, wait a second. Wait those 30 days. Think about it. Be rational for a moment, less emotional. Cut her hair. Lengthen her fingernails. Allow rationale to control the emotion. The time and distance will enable you to have that cooling period where You won't make what could be a very, very tragic error and mistake. We see this all the time. A person might have kas, might have a midah of kas. He's angry and he'll act on it, do something terrible, chas v'shalom, to his family, to someone else, lose his temper. Take a moment, take a step back, use your seichel, not your emotion. Makes all the difference in the world. And again, you can avoid some very, very tragic mistakes that the Yetzer Hara brings us to by going ahead and doing so. The final idea I wanted to share, which I think is a very, very profound idea, is the following: is chasm sofer is bothered. This is a sanctioned marriage. At the end of the day, the Torah says this is mutter. Yes, indeed, it's not ideal, it's not lechatchila, but it's mutter. It's okay. So why does this produce the Isha Snua and the Ben Sora Mora? After all, I'm following the halacha. The Torah is letting me do this. It is permissible. So why does it have such a dire consequence? The Chasam Sofer is bothered by this issue and says, you know what? Perhaps indeed the dire consequence only follows if you didn't exactly follow the Torah's dictates. But perhaps I saw this from Rav Rosenswag. He points out a beautiful, beautiful idea. He says, even though it is mutter, even though the Torah sanctions it, it's not a lechatchila. It's not at all a lechatchila approach. The person has a passion, and it's a misplaced passion. It doesn't belong. He's obsessed with this woman. And indeed, it's not ideal. It's wrong. It's a very b'diavad level. It's mutter. If you ask the shaila, is this mutter or is it aser? It's permissible. It's mutter. But it's a very baseline level of mutter. It's mutter b'diavad. It's mutter b'shas hadchak. And a person has to ask himself, it's no shock if a person's living a b'diavad lifestyle, if he's living a mutter lifestyle according to the letter of the law, but he's not recognizing the spirit of the law, what it's really all about, what kedusha in a marriage relationship is all about. This is about lust and not about kedusha. So it might be mutter, it might be permissible, but it's certainly not the kind of family structure that's going to produce ahava, that's going to produce a marriage of real bonding between husband and wife. It's going to produce children that are going to be uplifted, that are going to be sanctified, that are going to live a life of kedusha. Rather, it's going to produce the Isha Snua. It's going to produce the Ben Sora Umora. And how often do we confront this challenge? We have shilas. In fact, we just started yeshiva this week. Beautiful, beautiful opening week in yeshiva. And we went to the kotel the first night. And I told the boys that you haven't seen the kotel, the churban, you have to tear kriya, you have to tear your outer garment. The boy asked me, am I allowed to tear my sock? Can I tear the sock instead of my shirt? I said, certainly not. But that's not the point. The point was the question. The question was looking for, is there a way that I could be yotzei on a b'diavad level? Can I satisfy the letter of the law? And even if I'm not satisfying the spirit of the law. And the answer is, on certain shilas, sure, you can. The letter of the law, and that might be mutter. But the question is it giving you, is it moving you towards kedusha, towards spirituality, towards an exalted existence? The eishes yefas toar, in certain scenarios, in certain circumstances, is mutter b'shas hadchak, is mutter b'diavad. However, it's not going to be the relationship that produces kedusha, that produces children that are living lives of holiness, that are exalted. When we go ahead and approach these final days of our Jewish calendar of Tafshin Ayin Beis, the final days of Elul, the last couple of weeks, think about, as we prepare to the future, my life, is it exalted? Is it uplifted? Or am I just satisfying the letter? The goal, of course, is to live that exalted life, that uplifted life, that life of kedusha, that life of lechatchila. And if we do so, it will certainly come with a sense of simcha, kedusha, joy, and obvious connection to the Ribono Shel Olam. Have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos.